I'll do is give you a walkthrough of my Trident Ultra 4.3 and show you exactly what I've done stage by stage to modify the kayak. Now, it comes with a variety of different fixtures, which it really does save a lot of drilling compared to the Trident 13, which was a superb kayak that I had. Decided to opt for this one instead. Now, if we just start from sort of the bow area, you'll really see what the kayak has in relation to older models, and it really is quite superb. At the front, you know, no different to the Trident 13. You have the bung at the front there for draining down the water. You also have this extra fitting here, which is to allow you to fit the anchor trolley as far forward as you want. Now, the standard sort of pad eyes don't fit, so you would have to get a marine stainless steel one, which I can show you at the back, that I've actually utilised as part of the Rudder setup. You've got the moulded handle now rather than the bungees that were utilised before, so it's far easier to carry. A little bit awkward at times, as I've noticed, but it's a lot easier to carry rather than the bungees and the previous setup sort of digging into your hand. Now, what I've gone for is I've used the fixings that are on the kayak already, and if you follow my post for setting up an anchor trolley, you'll see the step-by-step guide there anyway. But I decided not to go all the way up to the front because I've just never really utilised the anchor trolley at the front, even on the previous kayaks that I've owned. So I've gone for this option. Very, very simple, relatively cheap to do, but if I did want to anchor off at the front, it's still going to allow me to do that. The thing that I love about this kayak is the click seal hatch. It's so much better than the cross lock that they had before, and it also is actually fixed to the kayak, whereas the other one was on a small piece of string, so you know, as soon as you took the lid off, it would pretty much hit the floor and get scratched up. So this is really a good system, and you can just see the seals there, and it's absolutely perfect. It's just stuff that the Trident 13, my previous model, didn't have, so it just gives you a bit more variety there. The hatch is certainly big enough to get a sea tug in, and although I use something slightly different, it all fits in there still, so there is ample space within the kayak itself, as you can see. As we come through, we've got these sort of bungees, more for putting your paddle through, or even your fishing rods if you're coming through on a surf. So it just gives you that extra security rather than relying on the rod holders at the back, because if you do get dumped in the surf, right, you can lose a lot of gear, and that has happened to me previous when I first started this hobby. So anything to try and avoid that now is an absolute blessing. So this stuff here, really good. What you have at the front here is the fixings for perhaps sticking a Scotty mount in, and it really is just an ideal setup, you know, because if you want anything there, it's already done for you, and it just saves so much hassle should you get it wrong, guys. So stick in the Scotty mount and then whatever fixings you want to that. I used this cable gland, bought it in a DIY store, and I've just run my power cable, which goes into the front, as you just saw there. So the cable itself is here, and it just runs nicely in. Now, they do have a hatch at the back, but I still like to have the battery at the front, because I've got to put basically my kayak trolley in there anyway, so you know, I just like to keep it all at the front still. The thing that I really love on this model compared to my previous is that you have this fixing here, and it just allows you to run it all into the kayak, just keeping it all nice and tidy. And running down here also, if we just go underneath, you'll be able to see that actually for the first time ever on one of my kayaks, I've been able to install the transducer actually so it hits the open water. Now, I could have spent on the Trident 13 a lot of money on the sort of through-hole transducer, but it's just not worth the money for me. So what I've been doing in past models is been gluing it in the hull, and it's had no real effect. You know, it still performs the way it should. However, to be able to do this now for the first time, it really is a blessing, and I was able to utilize all the bits of kit that the fish finder came with, so at no extra cost, this is what I've got now, and it works perfectly. When we when I came to install what we have, the cables all thread through this metal piece here, and it just makes it so much easier. Now on the previous post you'll see that I lifted all these bolts off, and then underneath there it just gives you the option to coil down all your cable, fix it all into position, cable tie it, and then you take like a backing off a big sticker underneath there, and then once you bolt it back down it should hopefully keep it watertight. If not, it's going to reduce the water ingress in there either way. And to allow my cable to come through, I've just used one of the cable glands again. Got a pack of 5 in B&Q for about $3.99, so it just works absolutely perfectly, and the cable glands are waterproof. I've opted to go for the Garmin 550C this time. Had a few problems with the Humminbird before when it came to warranty, and Garmin have a really sort of good reputation, so it just made sense really to go with those, so that's exactly what I've done. You've got all these fixings and holes, so you can fit a variety of things on there. I mean, I don't really want to sort of overwhelm the kayak. I didn't have a great deal on the Trident 13, so I'm certainly not going to start sticking things on here for the sake of it just because I've got the option to do so. But the thing that I love in particular is that you can rotate this round, so that if you are coming into the surf, you're not going to lose your fish finder, and it all gets sealed by these elasticated sort of heavy duty bungees, and they clip onto the pieces as you can see here. So it just very well thought out design. Absolutely love it. Underneath you can put whatever you want in there, and it comes with a water bottle, which is just a nice extra. So of course, once you sort of get out on that initial surf, whether you're coming in or out, you can just rotate this round, and you see the cables at the front there. It just works perfectly, keeps everything nice and clean, and then you just secure it in this position. Another reason why I wanted to go for this kayak is purely because the storage at the front here, it's just absolutely sensational design. Something that's normally seen on the more expensive models like the Dorado and the Marlin, but you know, to have the option for £1,000 on one of these that saves you reaching to the back of the kayak, where you'll probably be more likely to be off balance, reaching for tackle, anchors, etc. It makes it so much easier. So I now store my tackle, my food, extra drink, leads, just all the bits and pieces that I used to store in a flambeau box at the back is now in front of me, and it just makes it so much easier. You have a hot rod holder either side, another 2 moulded in handles, and you have the option here to probably fit a 4-inch hatch. Gonna leave that as it is at the moment. I've got no intention to stick anything extra in, because the storage is just ample for what I do my daily fishing. And when it comes to the seat, the original version did come with a pre-installed seat, but there's been some issues there, and I know that Ocean Kayak on this particular model are now providing the Ocean Kayak seat. So all these bolts and fixings, this would have been for the backrest, this would have been to secure this sort of gel seat that they made when it first come to market, which is no longer available as far as I'm aware. Now the anchor trolley itself, for anyone that's familiar, at the front there, just I can position it where I want it and it works perfectly. What I normally do, rather than fixing unnecessary items to the kayak, is that once it's in position and it's all threaded through, I normally just use the paddle keep, and that keeps it in position more than enough for what I need. You know, there's no point in me screwing additional extras to the kayak when I can use what is already there. So that is something that I've taken from the Trident 13, and I'm certainly going to use it to good effect on this as well. Now I've just installed the ram tubes. Now I appreciate that a lot of people may take these rear rod holders out and effectively cut a chopping board up to then install this on top of it, but however, I like these, it came with it, and I want to utilize them. Now you get these 2 holes here which are for rod holders as well. However, I like to use these ones as well, So what I've done is I've mounted them almost as close as I can to it, but I've paddled the kayak a few times now, and the position of these will not hamper or affect my paddling. So I'm quite happy with the install there, and I've done that on both sides, as you can see there, and it works absolutely fine. This is really the 4-inch hatch at the back, and the purpose of this really is so that if you wanted to install your battery in there, it's supposedly going to even out the balance of the kayak. However, remember, I store mine at the front, you know, so it's really down to personal preference what you want to do there. But it's just a handy hatch to have, because when I was threading the rudder cables through, etc., it just made it a little bit easier for me to be able to grab certain things. So that's really probably the only benefit that I personally had. But if you decide to store anything in there, it's something that you wouldn't have had otherwise, so it's a nice little extra if I can get it back on. Okay, you have this recessed area, so you could store a tackle box in there. You've got some iPad fixings in there, right, and you've got some scupper holes. So the drainage on the kayak itself really is quite good. Now, I already demonstrated utilising another post that I use these marine stainless D shackles, and they work really well, and it saves threading it through these holes so that it doesn't create any friction on itself, and it just makes it easier to pull it up and down the kayak and position it where you want it. You have the extras here, so you can put a pad eye across, or perhaps a fixing there if you want to. Another scupper hole at the back, and finally you have your rear carrying handle. When you see the anchor trolley itself, what I have is I've got the rudder fitted, so I've just threaded it through, and it's all bungeed as it was at the front there. So just a nice addition. But if you don't have the rudder system, what you can simply do is just buy one of the pad eyes, fix it to this position here, and then this will just be a little bit further forward, or should you wish, what you could do is actually fix it to the rear where my rudder is. So the options are there for you, it just depends what you want to do. Now, this is the rudder kit that I got off Paul Newey. Absolutely sensational piece of kit, and a big shout out to him again, because you know, he really helped me out here in ensuring really that I'm going to have a good rudder at a low cost, and it works absolutely perfectly. Now, I'm sure everybody has their preferences when it comes to fixing things, but for me it really was about just using what I had in the garage already. So I got the M5 bolt there, using this bit of elastic with heat shrink. It just meant that I could create this rather than manufacturing what Ocean Kayak use, which is the rudder keep itself. So it's just nice and simple. When I get on the water, make sure I take it off, and it just operates so cleanly once it's in position. So as you can see, it just goes up and down. Once you're back in, put it back over, and it's not going to go anywhere. Cables threaded through very smartly with the tubing that's supplied all the way up to the footrest at the front there. Now, on the other side, to actually operate it, and I appreciate you might not be able to see it as cleanly as you may have before, but I have this shackle here, again running it through all fixtures and fittings on the kayak itself. So as you can see, just running through right this piece here, and then what it actually allows me to do is pull top or bottom, and that will then deploy or retrieve the rudder itself. Just to keep it all nice and tight, this is the D shackle that I'm on about. I had to widen it ever so slightly just to make it fit, but it's a nice job. You know, for £1.50, it just keeps it all nice and together so that it's not going to wave around all over the kayak. So it deploys with absolutely no issues whatsoever. When we come to the front, there it is, just running through tubing, metal wire, and then it just fixes on right to your pre-existing footrest, but just using this modification here, which means you can really adjust it for the height of you as the paddler in the kayak. So you know, the options are there. The kayak itself is just brilliant. The speed is sensational compared to the Trident, and you don't really realise how far we've come even in the last 2-3 years until you try these. As soon as I saw it, I thought, yep, I much prefer it. It's just got so many good features compared to my last one. And there it is, the Trident 4.3 branding there. But it's just a pleasure to paddle. It's fast, it's nice, it's got all those features. Yes, it does cost a lot, but if you're a fanatic and you're looking for an upgrade, you know, I could highly recommend this. It is very, very good indeed. Well, I hope you've enjoyed just the look around the kayak there. Just keeping it very, very clean and simple. No need for any mess whatsoever, and it works perfectly. Now I'm going out for a trip tomorrow, so hopefully I'll be able to report on some fishing in the local area that is good. Okay, thanks for watching.